Did you know that teen drivers are on the decline? In the 1980s, 83% of teens had their driver license by 16. Today, only 34% of 16-year-olds have their license. Today, we're going to talk about this trend and how it can affect those that delay learning to drive. I'm Jane Ubel, and this is episode 12 of Throwing Your Parents Under the Bus podcast. With me today is veteran crash investigator and driver safety expert Mike Peel, and as well, our social media expert and keeper of our enrichment observations, Natasha Johnson. We're going to go right to Natasha, and can you tell us about today's student observation?
Yes, so today's comes from Julie from Rochester, and she has a question for you that I relate to fully. So I guess she's not a student, but her 18-year-old is afraid to drive. What tips can you offer the parent, and do you have any words of encouragement? But before you get to that, I actually have to tell you about someone who's not afraid to drive. Did you hear about the 8-year-old who drove to Target?
I did, because you told me.
Yeah, she drove 25 minutes to Target by herself, parked at Target, had $400 with her, and went and bought a Frappuccino. That's amazing.
So, Mike, well, there's two thoughts for you to think about.
Well, let's just touch on the 8-year-old. You know, if you go back to our classroom curriculum, we talk about teaching your kids to get observant when they're young. We didn't know it would start at 8 years old. To be able to take a car and maneuver. I would have loved to have been in the back seat and had a video of this, because I would like to know how, what she was thinking on how do you target this car, and then, Target's not a simple parking lot. So once she gets to the parking lot, what do? I can see going down a straight road, a wide road, and kind of looking like a drunk, but wow, I'd like to meet this 8-year-old. I really, really would. So anyway, let's talk about the trend first, like the 80% plus getting licensed back in the 70s, 80s. I had a car in the garage before I turned 16. Each one of my kids graduated, or my 3 kids graduated in the 80s, and they had a car in the garage before they even took their driver's test. And I do see that in today's world, I think it's the cost of the car, the cost of insurance, because once they're licensed, they have to go onto the insurance policy. And I just think that our generation today is so used to mooching off their parents and their friends. Why drive? Because when I get kids in the car and they're 17 or 18 and they're doing behind the wheels, I say, well, why haven't you gotten your license when you were 16? Well, it's easier to ride with my friends. So I hear that a lot. I think that trend is, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we're going to actually talk, a little bit. I don't have anything against anybody waiting till they're 18, 19, 20 to get a license, but that is not the age you want to start driving. You want, that instruction permit is so valuable. I need to just get that mindset right, that you don't want to start the process when you're 18, 19, and 20 years old. At least get that permit, because you can, for instance, in Minnesota, you can renew a permit. I think it's $9.50, and it's good for another 2 years. So you can have a permit for 4 years, and the cost is $19 for 4 years, and you don't have to go on the insurance. You still get that little bit of that experience driving, and then you're not starting out brand new. So
Mike, I know you say with us that it takes practice to become a good driver. So at least if you start early, you can acclimate to it much more than as you age, is what I think you have told us.
Yes. And then the problem with waiting till that 20 years old or that 18 years old, all of a sudden they want their license now. And now they've missed out on all this this life-saving experience that we try and teach with a permit, all this classroom stuff that we try and teach to get the mindset on what our enrichments. I mean, look at what these enrichments have done. And if people don't appreciate these, man, these are some life-saving things we're getting. And we just did it kind of as a let's get a little humorous on this and look at what we've brought out through these podcasts. I think it's pretty amazing. But anyway, let's get to this 18-year-old afraid to drive and stuff like that. So I am probably guilty of this um, because of the teacher I am. I hold nothing back. You need to know what reality is when it comes to driving. And if you don't pay attention and you have a motorcycle underneath your car, you're the first one that gets to look at it. I've never been ashamed of holding that stuff back. If you decide to not wear a seatbelt and that car rolls and it flips and you get thrown out of the car and you end up face first into the pavement, it's not a pretty sight. And your friends and family get to view that sight. It's not pretty. So those are the bad things of not paying attention. So if that 18 or 19-year-old or 17-year-old driver is afraid to drive because that stuff might happen, that's not true. That stuff, if you do the safe rules and become a very good defensive driver, you know what? I'm just going to say that is so minimal worldwide. All right. But if we have that timid, that person that really doesn't want to jump behind the wheel right away, then we need to build some confidence. And how you build confidence is not putting that student into stressful situations like during rush hour traffic at any town you live in. You know, when horns start honking at new drivers, it irritates them. It puts them into a defensive mechanism that why am I doing this? It's easier not to drive. And then society has become a pain in the butt for our new drivers. They really have. I mean, in driver's ed cars that has student driver all over it, I've had people come up and flip us the bird. You know, I'm sorry, they've been on the road for like 1 hour. I can't help it. You know, I would love to get them, but if you would go home and let me have the road to myself, I could work a lot better. You know. We can't stop a student in the middle of the road and say, here's why this is happening. We have to do it as they're stumbling through it. So as a driving instructor. So my suggestion to the parents out there, I don't care where you live, if it's in downtown New York, Manhattan, whatever, you can find a safe, slow place to drive. There's country someplace. It might be 25 minutes away, but there is country someplace. And to get a student just to go out where they can just drive at their own pace. It's okay if they bump the side of the road on the shoulder a little bit, get used to steering that steering wheel down the middle, fluctuating their speeds. My first lesson that I take every student on is curvy, hilly roads. Okay, way out in the country. What it does is it works on their target position with the car. It works on their speed fluctuations going up the hill, coming back and going down the hill. And guess what? There's no traffic out there. So I get to talk to them. You know, I get to be in that low monotone voice that says, okay, did you notice how your speed dropped 10 miles an hour when we hit the hill? So when you see the bottom of the hill, you need to start increasing your accelerator a little bit. And when we get to the crest of the hill, you know, remember when, you know, just quick defensive driving skill, because I always watch for that and I'm going to show it on my camera. When you get to the top of a hill, you're always looking for somebody in your lane passing. You know, we're in the fall right now, so we got farm equipment out there combining, and people don't want to wait behind them going up a hill, so they pass in no passing zones. So remember, when you're going up a hill, you always expect somebody in your lane, and you're always ready to exit to the right. The ditch is our best friend, but you're always looking for the rooftop of a car. You will see that a precious second before you see the whole car. And that gives you a precious second on a defensive driving. But so, you know, for that 18-year-old, like I said, back to that, the confidence builder is getting them away from the busy stuff. parking lots that are not full, if they got a permit, there's big parking lots around that think of your church, and don't go there on a Sunday morning. Go to your church on a Tuesday afternoon or a Tuesday evening or a Tuesday morning, and a big church. Think of a college on a Sunday morning. Big campus. Stuff like that. So there's places you can find if you look, and then mom or dad, you drive to the location. Then switch it out when you get out of the busy stuff. And I can't tell you enough. We have a video out there called Roadworthy. Parents, that video it's on our website. You need to at least watch the beginning of that, because it talks to you parents on how to not make this 18-year-old happen. Excuse me. It is so important, the language in that car with a beginning driver, and especially one that's afraid to drive at 18. We need to handle that very delicately, and that video teaches that. So, there you go.
Mike, I just wanted to add one more thing, is that I remember you telling us that you can teach a 15-year-old a couple hours how to become confident, whereas if you have a 20 or 30-year-old, it might take a number of tries because they become more and more afraid as they age.
Right. So a lot of people will wait till they're 18 or 19 just so they don't have to pay for the driver's ed part of the driving program. And parents, I understand the savings mindset in that, but listen to me. I want you to think of the money you spend in band and sports and all the extracurricular. Don't cheat your son or daughter or yourself on safety and driver's ed. You know what? Unless you're a crash expert, you don't get it. I'm sorry. You know what? We know how to teach this, and we look at it this way. We always divide the person's age in half, and that's the professional hours they need just to get prepared for a test, let alone to become that defensive driver. So if you take a 40-year-old, it's going to cost you 20 hours of professional lessons, or they're going to fail 4, 5, 6 times. So if you take that 15-year-old, like in Minnesota, it's 6 hours of professional lessons, 3 2-hour lessons. 99% of them we can do it in the 6 hours. We bump that up to 20. Now we need 10. So now you are paying for 10 hours of driver's ed just behind the wheel, includes no classroom, and now it's getting really expensive. So like I say, at least get the paperwork stuff done, get the permit. Once the permit is there, you can renew it, and now you can take your time. And now they're starting to think like a driver even while they ride. So
setup. Well, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Natasha, for being here. And of course, I guess we're done here for today for this episode of Throwing Your Parents Under the Bus. And of course, we thank you all for joining us. And if you want to watch other episodes or send us a note, please go to drivesaferidesafe.com, and then you can look under podcasts or check out the links below. Now, until next time, remember, we are
Drive safe, ride safe.
Thank
I
you.
didn't even say that. See, Jane always tries to throw us under the bus, but I've not let that happen.
All right. Well, until next time, we hope you enjoy your week. Take care.
Bye.